To continue, other candle holders should be placed around the temple, since the only light used in the temple, both during rituals and at other times, should come from candles. The black book should be placed on an oak stand on the altar itself being of sufficient size for an individual to lie upon it. Indoor temples should be painted either black or crimson, or a combination of the two. The floor bare or covered with rugs or carpets of plain design, either black or crimson. When not in use, the temple should be kept dark and warm. Hazel incense being burned frequently. A quartz sphere or large dark crystal should be kept in the temple, either in or near the altar. If near, supported by an oak stand above the altar or behind it. It should be an image or a sculpture of Baphomet according to satanic tradition. This is very important. You're going to see in the world Baphomet looking like a different creature. That's not Baphomet at all. That's just one of the little misleadings that you're going to find ubiquitous on this planet regarding the truth of the powers of darkness. Baphomet is regarded by Satanists as a violent goddess and is depicted as a beautiful woman, seated, who is naked from the waist up, and in her left hand she holds the severed head of a man. In her other hand, she holds a burning torch. The severed head, which drips blood onto her lower white garment, is held so that it partially obscures her smiling face. Baphomet is regarded as the archetype of the mistress of earth and the bride of Lucifer. As you can tell, she's supposed to be the downfall of man. That's who people try to mix up Eve with. And so no other furnishings are present in the temple. The temple implements are few in number and should be made or commissioned by the master or mistress. Part of this is because the more accoutrement we have, the more tchotchkes, if you will, these constitute beauty and art and the expression of the human spirit, which is very, very, they're into austerity. The devil very much hates our creative abilities, if I haven't made myself clear on that prior to this. Meanwhile, if this is not possible, they should be chosen by them with care. The implements required are, you don't just go buy a chair, you know. The implements required are several large silver chalices, a censer or incense holders. Incense, people need to understand, when one is incensed, you know, they say he was incensed. What that means is you're bringing something in, you know, and so when you are incensing a room, you're actually putting emotion in that room. And so, and I'm sure anyone who has burned incense knows that it just changes the whole feel of the room. A quartz tetrahedron, a large silver bowl, and the sacrificial knife, which should have a wooden handle. These implements may be kept on the altar if it is large enough, or wrapped in black cloth and kept in an oak chest. Oak is a very strong wood and lasts is, you know, this type of thing. No one is allowed into the temple unless they are dressed in ceremonial robes and barefoot. Back to the use of oak. There were times when generations would be skipped, where darkness was not partaken of by a certain family or tribe or civilization. And so often the powers of darkness would hide away these implements, which has been the stuff of movies for, you know, since movies have begun. Meanwhile, no one's allowed into the temple unless they're dressed in ceremonial robes and barefoot. The barefoot, what people don't realize is when our feet come in contact with the ground, there is a communication, a spiritual, it's very difficult to explain, but there's a connection. And being barefoot is also a sign of respect and intimacy. You see, that's why, if you remember correctly how they did with the Hillbillies, Beverly Hillbillies, they said, set a spell, take your shoes off. You see, that's when you're really at home, and that's the point, is they're trying to say this is where you live, okay? The robes are generally black with a hood, although some rituals require the use of other colors. If possible, an antechamber should be used by members to change into the ceremonial robes. If an outdoor location is used, the area should be marked out by a circle of 7 stones by the master or mistress. An outdoor altar is usually the body of one of the participants naked naked or robed, depending on the ritual and the prevailing conditions. The one chosen for this honor lies on the altar cloth, black in color and woven with an inverted pentagram. The size of this cloth being not less than 7 feet by 3. That's 21 square feet. Candles should be placed in lanterns, which open only on one side, this side being of glass, which is often colored red. The participants should know the area well, since they should not use any form of artificial light of any kind, including candles, to guide them to the chosen site. Neither must any fires be lit during any ritual. For this reason, the night of the full moon is often chosen. Stumbling around in the dark is one thing, but spiritually it's to say that you've done this so much you can do it in the dark, okay? Both indoor temples and outdoor areas. You'll find that people often don't go to church in a Christian church, or they don't go to their temples. One of the ways for them to say, look, you better keep coming, is you will forget how to get there in the dark. Both indoor temples and outdoor areas chosen for rituals should be consecrated according to the rite of temple consecration. When any ritual of satanic magic is undertaken, no attempt should be made in any way to banish the magical forces. What forces or energies remain following a ritual are to remain, since they dedicate the area or temple still further to the powers of darkness, meaning they will be unleashing things and they're not allowed to get rid of it, good, bad, or indifferent. Preparation for rituals include the master and mistress choosing one member to act as an altar brother or sister. It is the duty of this member to ensure that the temple is prepared, for example, lighting the candles, filling the chalices with wine, incensing prior to the ritual. It is duty of the master and mistress to prepare for the members of the ritual. This usually involves them assembling in robes in the temple or in the antechamber designated as a preparation area at least half of 1 hour before the beginning of the ritual. During this period, they are to keep their silence while standing. No chit-chat and how you doing and small talk. Concentrating on the image of Baphomet or some sigil, such as an inverted pentagram, as decreed by the master or mistress. So it's quite the opposite of church. You get there, you see each other, but you're deliberately silent with one another. There is no speaking to each other. There's no need to. And there's no squirreling, where you're teaching each other, oh, this means that and that means this. It's a very personal. When you go to a Christian church, people discuss what they just learned and how are you doing and can you come overs, and they don't do that in Satanism. That is not what this is for. This is a very personal, selfish, self-centered journey. One or several members should be chosen to act as cantors and instruct in the proper chanting of the chants. Other members may be chosen as musicians, the preferred instruments being a tabor or a hand drum or a flute. The ceremonial rituals, this is section 3, are given here. They're conducted for basically 2 reasons: to generate magical energy and thus direct that energy to achieve a magical goal or desire, and for the benefit of the participating congregation. The benefits the congregation derive from a successfully conducted ritual of black magic are many and varied. There are the carnal ones, material ones, and then there's spiritual ones where you're using, telekinesis. I've seen people walk through walls, fly through the air. I mean, it doesn't end. Chris Angel, think Bewitched only better when you get Godhead, however. It goes well beyond these parlor tricks. They don't have the ability to create. They can use physical things, as you've seen, where they can do cloning and genetics and all that kind of good stuff, but they're still using the creations of God, and they're just manipulating things that God made, whereas they can't make. To be successful, a ceremonial ritual must be both dramatic and emotional. That is, the right atmosphere has to be created and maintained. The object is to involve the emotions of the congregation and all the many ritualized elements. Ergo, the robes and the candles are a means to aid this. You're focusing your energy. The robes literally take away all of your individualism, whereas you go to a Christian church and some of them have these hats. It's hilarious. I love seeing how beautiful women dress up for Sunday, but some of it can get pretty funny, and it's great. You see this peacock walking down the walk and you're just like, oh, isn't she adorable? And a lot of times that's the only social life some people have, and so it's really interesting. Meanwhile, and God's all for that. He wants people to fellowship and enjoy each other, but in Satanism, black robe, everybody's the same, and that's also why it's in darkness. They don't really want you noticing one another, but it's important that people understand that the reason for these robes is to keep you entirely focused on only uh, pissing God off. I'm sorry, but I gotta say it. That's exactly how it is. So anyway, the robes and the candles are a means to aid this. However, the single most important element is the power of the voice. Whether spoken, chanted, vibrated, or sung, when you are conducting a ceremonial ritual, you must use the set texts and chants, okay? This is not like a Christian church where you go in and you speak from your heart and you feel revelatory experiences where the Spirit is speaking through you and, you feel inspired in your speech. Nothing like that at all. It's extremely rote. That's how you know a fallen church, when they're just regurgitating, you see. It's important that people understand that when you're conducting a ceremonial ritual, you must use these set texts, such as the Satanic Our Father or the Diabolus, as a means of gradually working yourself into an emotional but still controlled frenzy, you see. And that's where it gets really tricky, because it's like saying step on the edge but don't get cut. It's like saying go to the very edge of something and don't fall over. I think we all know inherently from inside how difficult it is not to fall over that edge. We don't even get close to that edge. Meanwhile, it's no use just saying the correct words. They must be spoken or chanted with a satanic desire, and the emotion once brought must be sustained until the ritual is over. This does not mean simply acting. It means actually becoming the role you assume, that of a powerful sorcerer or sorceress, and this feeling must be communicated to the audience by voice, gestures, eyes, and so on. Ceremonial magic is and always has been an art, according to them, and to master this art takes practice. Some people make an art of pissing others off. Meanwhile, back to the getting to the edge, I have a joke that really, really demonstrates this. Wells Fargo was hiring back in the olden days drivers for their coaches and horses so that they would take the Pony Express and deliver the mails. 3 men were applying for the position, so the headmaster decided to interview them collectively, and he asked the first one, okay, how close could you get to the edge of that cliff and not fall over? He said, well, I'll bet you I could get within 2 feet and not fall over and still be going a good clip. He said, well, that's impressive. He asked the next fellow, how close do you think you could get to the edge and not fall over? He said, I'll bet you I could get it at least like a foot, 18 inches to a foot, and no problem, and still be going at a really good pace. He said, that's impressive as well. And the third fellow, he asked, okay, how close do you think you could get to that edge and not fall off? He said, well, sir, I really have no idea, because it would be my intention not to get anywhere close to the edge of that cliff. He got the job, ladies and gentlemen. However, it's important that you, the person, that person who chooses to be a mistress, master, priestess, or priest, or whatever, priest-crafter, must always remain in control of your emotions, stopping just short of possession. You'll notice I had trouble even saying that sentence, because the reality of the situation is anyone who chooses to embark on this dangerous and deceptive path is going to find themselves fraught with trickery. I mean, it's just hilarious. This also means that each and every ritual must be undertaken without fear or doubt. And that's true. Anything that you believe, whether you think you can or you think you cannot, either way you are correct. That's why the Lord asks from us pretty much just our faith. If you have faith in God, you're going to have faith in His words. And if you believe in His words, you're going to follow them for your own success, for your own survival. That's the thing people don't get, is that our religious experiences are not supposed to be for our post-mortal existence. They're supposed to be for what we're doing right here, right now, and doing it successfully and cleanly, you see, where everybody's winning. If you have a winner and a loser, in a sense, everyone's lost. It's all about win-win. So, This also means that each and every ritual must be undertaken without fear or doubt, not even unconscious fear or doubt. You know, how many of us can control our unconscious mind? What's that about? So what they're saying is blow lots of smoke up your own butt. That is in the true spirit of satanic pride and mastery, with an exaltation in the forces conjured forth. What that means is to just be like exultant about the whole thing, you know, like, yes, you know, we've got this, we've done it, feeling a gratitude that you already have it, and ownership, if you will. I do apologize. In most ceremonial rituals, is one of the tasks of the congregation to abandon themselves to their lusts and frenzy, but the ceremonial head cannot do this, since they control and direct all the energies which are brought forth via the ritual and the frenzy produced. It's up to that person to initiate the emotion in the temple, to cultivate its development in the congregation, to get them to reach a ritual frenzy, and to climax. You see, that person has to be the person that all of this is done for. And the energy then must be controlled towards a specific magical aim, or dispersed by that person into the temple and surrounding area, and left to dissipate or spread according to its nature and to the glory of the Prince of Darkness. Okay, basically to create whatever chaos it can. Often rotten things that happen in the forest are because somebody else was doing something rotten there. And remember, our souls are here to be tried. We're specifically here to be ensnared, and to learn how to not be ensnared. To direct the energy, you must, before the ritual, choose a specific desire or aim. It has to be a premeditated, you know. When we go to church, we basically go to worship the Lord, serve others, and hope that the Lord's blessings will lead our lives into, for His glory, and for us to be good examples, yada yada. But when you go into a satanic church, you go, okay, I'm going in for that job, or I'm going in to get that dude, or, you know, that kind of thing. And it does work. That's why it's important that each person learn how to have spiritual armor, because we can be tempted into being with the wrong person. I'm sure I'm the only one who knows this.